to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest Xavier Antheume, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Executive Director of the Nevada Athletic Directors Association. Welcome to the podcast, X.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Happy to be here.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience around the world now where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Sounds good. Yeah. So born and raised here in Las Vegas, Nevada. My parents moved out from France in 1963, and they planted their roots here, and we've been here ever since. There's 5 Antheumes in the United States, and all 5 of us, that's my wife, my daughter, my parents, we all live in Las Vegas, and happy to be here. As far as college, I went to the University of Never Leave Vegas. So I went to UNLV. I'm a proud running rebel. Got my bachelor's and master's here at UNLV. And as far as my first job was as a lifeguard. I was a lifeguard at Treasure Island. And then that was very beginning of, my senior year of high school. And then when I went to college, I actually switched over. They actually helped me go over to valet. I was probably one of the worst valet attendants ever because I drove the cars way too fast. But we had some fun, right? We were young and dumb. So
tell me, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about being a lifeguard at Treasure Island.
Well, I'll tell you what, the pool was 4 feet deep. That was the deepest the pool got. So if somebody was starting to struggle a little bit, we just told them to stand up because it wasn't deep. You had to worry more so maybe with the little kids. Just making sure that they, because we had a couple little slides. We had a nice little mini slide for little kids and like a larger slide that's no longer there. They've since done away with it. But no, it was fun. High school, just getting a little bit of money. My father was a chef at Treasure Island. It's kind of how I got the in to work at the pool. And it was kind of nice because they provided you with a meal every day. So I took full advantage. I would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner because they served it to me. And my father was a chef, so I'd go bug him and say, "Hey, hook me up with something nice."
That is incredible. And so this is when you were a senior in high school. So what year was this?
Oh, I graduated high school in 94. So I picked up that summer job in 94 and did that for a couple years. Then when I went to college, when, my second year in college, they moved me over to valet, which I was thrilled, trying to drive nice cars, make some tips, hustle. That was fun. But like I said, my right foot's a little heavy. So it's not my fault that the cars were going so fast.
I'm interested because I've never really had a valet on the show before. I'm interested in how well people tip valets at a place like Treasure Island or any of the places in Vegas.
Well, I tell you, Treasure Island at the time that I worked, right? We had the nice, we had the Mystère Cirque du Soleil show. We also had the pirate ships out front, and those had times that they went off. So those were our prime time, busiest times. So even though like the tips were pretty good, you get a couple dollars, maybe a $5 tip or whatnot, like that, it was good. But because there were so many people, we had to increase staffing. So that means the tips had to be divided amongst more people. So not as lucrative as you might think at the time. But hey, you know what? It was easy money. Didn't have to use my brain a whole lot besides knowing where I parked the car and where I have to go get it. So it was a way to stay in shape.
Let's talk about youth sports in Vegas. And I'm sure you were involved in those. Talk for a minute about that, and talk for a minute. I'm assuming you possibly played baseball, and I want to hear about if that was indeed the case. Playing baseball in that heat in the middle of the Vegas summer. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, I don't know where you got baseball from, but my parents and my father specifically, in Europe France, big into soccer. So we started off soccer, but my high school didn't offer soccer. They only offered football, tennis, and a couple other sports. And I was a pretty good tennis player. So I played tennis. I bugged my father so much to let me play basketball because all my friends played basketball. And I just enjoyed just playing the game of basketball. And my father, which is so funny, my father was pretty much against me playing basketball. All he wanted me to really focus was on tennis. And he couldn't push me to soccer because our school didn't have soccer. And he was an avid runner, so he tried to push me towards track. I ran track 1 year. I ran a mile and a 2 mile. I'm like, man, this is too much. I can't be doing all of this. So I played tennis. I was a pretty good tennis player, like I said. Had the opportunity to play in college, but my father asked me to stay home so that we could get that in-state tuition and figure out all the core courses. And then once I got through that, then hey, son, go ahead. We'll help you go to another college. But I was too vested at UNLV that I just stayed. I did try out for UNLV's tennis team, but UNLV has and still does. They bring a lot of people from all parts of the nation and international. So there's a ton of Swedish kids and just kids from Europe that just took spots, and I'm just wasn't good enough to make that team. But that's kind of the road I took. And what's funny, and I told you about basketball with my father. Now my father loves Steph Curry. He's a big Golden State Warriors fan, and he's all about watching, games and whatnot. I'm like, where was this, Dad? When I was trying to play basketball, you told me no, and now all you do is watch basketball. So it's pretty funny how things have kind of gone a 180.
It is. Speaking of your father, let's have you share with our audience the mentors that you had in your life that made a big difference, young and even in your professional life.
Yeah, so I mean, family, for us is the most important. Like I said, there's only 5 of us, and so obviously it was just the 3 of us when I was growing up because I don't have any brothers or sisters. So we were always tight knit. We had to have dinner together. I speak French because my parents forced me to say, "Hey, your aunts and uncles and grandparents don't speak English. So when we go to France, you're gonna have to be able to communicate with them." So really keeping the culture, keeping the language. Was extremely important, and I'm so thankful. Even I think I've let my daughter, I only speak to her in French, and I'm trying to keep that culture alive, and that's a big thanks to my parents for really putting that in me. And as you can see behind me, I mean, I've got the Zidane French national jersey. So definitely I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of my friends, and proud of my ancestors. And as far as like NIAAA mentorship, I mean, as Warren Hagman, God rest his soul, was definitely the person that really pushed me to get involved in the NIAAA. Larry Goins and Bobby Northridge are a couple of Hall of Famers here in Nevada that, they were the gurus. So I would go to them to learn how to become a better athletic director. And I'm just so super thankful that they showed me the way. But yeah, that's kind of the guiding lights and guiding forces behind me getting to where I'm at today.
Excellent. Let me get sidetracked here for a minute. I'm assuming then you visit France regularly, or at least you did with a kid with your parents to visit your family and stuff. So what part of France is your family from? Is it Paris? Is it like further south? Is it down in the Mediterranean, up by Normandy?
Yeah. So when I was younger with my father and my mother, so this is what would occur is basically I would go there every other year. And, being a kid, typically you had 3 months off, especially when I was in high school. What my parents would do is I would fly out with my mother, and my father would stay home because they worked in hotels. You only get a certain amount of time off. So I would fly out with my mom, and I would stay with my mother's family with my mom. And we just kind of stay in the Paris area for about 2 weeks because that's where predominantly my parents on my mother's side lived. So we would stay there. Then my mom would head back to the United States, and I would stay with my grandmother or my aunts. And so I had basically 1 month where I was just, with family, not my parents. Then my father would fly out. He would essentially then pick me up and then take me down. At the time, my grandfather lived in the central heart of France, Clermont-Ferrand. And I would just spend time with him there and with my grandparents. And then his sister lived in Nice, which is the south part of France, and we would then go down and visit her. Now I'm still trying to keep that tradition alive. It's a little bit more challenging But I wanted to tell you that it was 2018 when France won the World Cup. I was in Paris. I didn't mean it to work out that way. We went actually with my father to Russia to watch a World Cup game, which was pretty neat. And then we flew into France, and I had my wife and my daughter come out, and we stayed with family. And we actually went to France 2 years ago, but we went to it's called the Ardèche region, just a really beautiful area. And what's funny, you brought up Normandy. In 2018, we did go up to Normandy. I have a cousin that lives up there, so we got to spend a little bit of time. But I have family in France, a little bit of everywhere, so it's kind of nice because I don't need to find hotel rooms. I just find family to stay with.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you another France question. In all of your times visiting, have you ever seen a leg of the Tour de France live?
So it's so funny, yes. And every year I watch the Tour de France. People think I'm crazy, but I just enjoy it. I think there's a lot of neat aspects to it. But what's funny is that when the Tour de France actually went through my grandmother's village, but when they go through, I mean, they go through in a split second. It's not like they're going to come back again, like NASCAR, right? NASCAR, they keep going in circles. Well, once they zip by, I mean, it's okay. You really can't tell anything. So watching it live, not so much fun. Watching it live on TV as the cameras follow the Tour de France around, a lot more fun. What I would encourage. But yeah, you have to say you at least saw it once, right?
That's fascinating. I've only been to France once, and this is, my goodness, back in 2007, and we actually stayed near the town where they filmed that Johnny Depp show, Chocolat, if you ever saw that.
I don't know. I've never seen it.
And I can't remember the name of the town, but central France was a lot different than hanging out in Paris.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
let me continue on and ask you a little bit of a personal question. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
I hate the word failure. I much prefer the statement disappointment.
Okay.
I don't think it really, I don't want to say that I've really failed anything. Personally, I think I've had challenging experiences. Maybe disappointments, as you say. That you try to learn from, you grow from, and hopefully those experiences make you stronger, make you better. And I'm gonna be open and honest with you. I think I am disappointed in myself, and I'm gonna go with the NIAAA. Is that I'm on the board of directors right now. It's a great situation. Loved all the colleagues I've met, the people I've learned from and grown, and it's just been a tremendous experience. I'm a little disappointed in myself. Most recently, when I went for the NIAAA presidency, I don't believe that I represented myself to the best of my ability, and I don't think I interviewed well. So I'm disappointed I didn't get the chance to be one of the top 2 to be voted on by my peers. So just one of those things. But hey, I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason. It just wasn't meant to be, and it wasn't my time. So I'm going to grow from it as well. I'm not going to take it personally.
I hear you. We're in the same club. Happened to me twice, X. So that's a good club to be in.
Hey, listen, the first time, I'm going to say the first time I submitted and I applied, I was only a half year into the position because we had someone else who was in that position, and then he retired, and then we needed a fill-in. So I kind of became that fill-in. So I feel like I was a little bit behind the 8 ball, but I thought I interviewed amazingly. And of course, it was Damien Frassinelli and Becky Moran were the top 2, and what 2 phenomenal people. And no disrespect to Tall Grop and Tony Fisher, who were the final 2, but I thought I did such a much better job the first time than the second time. I think I misrepresented myself to my fullest, but it is what it is. You learn.
Understandable. Let me ask you about the job as an AD. You've been an AD for over 20 years now.
Yes,
and
sir.
I want to know, from your perspective, how has the job changed since you first took the job as an AD?
Well, and to be honest, I've changed jobs, right? So I started off as athletic director at the high school level. I left Liberty High School and went to Chaparral High School, and I was only athletic director there for a year. And then I've became a dean, became an athletic administrator at Chaparral, and now I'm in the district athletic office. From the district athletic office, I can tell you that I think COVID was a big impact for all of our schools. And I think kids forgot how to behave. And I think that had to be relearned. And I know that my colleagues that were at the high school level and the middle school level, like, man, this discipline and the challenges are immense. I can tell you that the challenge that I see, and I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but the challenge that I see at the district level is that I just see a lot of red tape. And I really felt like as I moved up from athletic director to assistant principal of athletics to now being the district athletic office, I really thought I could not have to deal with red tape as much, but I almost feel like I see it more. Just the processes that we have to go through. I know risk management's a big piece of it because, you know, of liability reasons and whatnot. But yeah, those are some battles we just kind of have to fight through and get better with.
I want you to speak for a moment about working for the Clark County School District, because that's got to be one of the top 5 population-wise school districts in the country. I mean, it goes, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Mesquite still in the Clark County School District? So it's like the whole Southern Nevada. You got to have what, 50 high schools or more?
Yes, sir. So we have 37 high schools and 57 middle schools just specific to Clark County School District. We go from the Las Vegas area all the way up to Indian Springs, Sandy Valley, Boulder City, and like you said, Mesquite and Overton, which are about a little bit hour-ish drive just northeast of us. On the way to Utah, you know, as I come to spend some time with you in St. George.
Right. Moapa Valley would be there too, right?
So it's Moapa Valley and Virgin Valley are the 2 high schools that are up in the Mesquite area. So they're definitely part of the alliance. But yeah, no, we're the 5th largest school district in the nation, and we keep growing. People just keep moving to Vegas. So we're already knowing that they're going to build another middle school that's on the books, and another high school. I know that's on the books as well. So, man, we're going to continue to grow.
That's fascinating. Talk for a minute. You mentioned it earlier. Talk for a minute about your journey with the Nevada athletic directors, and obviously your involvement with the NIAAA and how it is. Of course, it was Nevada's turn to be on the board, but talk for a minute about how you came in as obviously a new green AD, and you're still fairly young, and now you're the executive director for Nevada.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting path. When I first got into becoming an athletic director, I didn't know what I didn't know. And what I did know was that there was a man by the name of Larry Goins, who was at one of the local high schools, that he was known as the guru of athletic directors. So I just reached out to him on the phone, and he basically said, hey, you know, love to help you. Welcome. He allowed me to come to watch a few of his presentations, like his parent meetings, things of that nature, just so that I could learn and make it better for Liberty High School. Because I was there as a first year AD, and only the second year of the school was open. So everything was very new, small school at the time with only 1,800. Now they're at like 3,700 almost, maybe 3,600. They've grown a ton. But yeah, so I had to reach out to someone, and that's who I reached out to. And Larry was fantastic. And at the time, Larry was the executive director for NADA as well. So of course, he encouraged me to take classes and be part of the conference and everything, which I absolutely did. And then a few years later, Warren Hagman became the assistant principal over at Liberty High School. And as you know, Warren, formerly on the board of directors, you know, gave me again, hey, we need to get you to the national conference. And I went to Nashville, Tennessee for my first conference, and you know, amazed. I came back with so many ideas. Hey, we need to implement this. We need to do this, just by going to workshops and taking classes. So that was a big piece of growth. And then we had the state liaison position open up, and Warren said, I'm going to submit your name. And the board for NADA said, yeah, let's get Xavier in there. So became the liaison, learned about that, and continue to expand. And then I started teaching classes at NADA, and I was doing workshops for NADA. So definitely that grew. And as you stated, recently became Nevada's turn for a spot on the NIAAA board of directors. Charlie Walsh, good man, was selected to take that position, but he elected to retire. Unfortunately, that ended his term. So he began the term the 3-year term. He did about 6 months, and I'm finishing it out. So this is actually my last year on the board of directors. December will be my last meeting, and that's just been an amazing situation. Last year, we had a big changeover at NADA in that our executive director, Regina Quintero, elected to retire, and so did some of our Hall of Fame board members. So kind of a little bit of a do-over or a restart, but it's been fantastic. We had a lot of great people that have stepped up to say, hey, we want to be part of it. What can we do to help? So still learning, still growing, as you know. I went to the Utah conference and I went to the Arizona conference here in September. And again, just trying to learn and grow so we can help make Nevada even that much better.
Let's have you share with our audience for a moment 1 or 2 stories about serving on the United AAA board, because I know I had the chance to serve years ago. You're currently serving. Not everyone gets a chance to serve, but I always like to ask people who have been on the board if they have a favorite story, behind the scenes, humorous stuff. Take a moment and share something that comes to mind.
Ooh, well, this might be my opportunity to put Greg Smith under the bus.
There you go.
You're familiar with Greg Smith. Smitty's a good man. He's a little cantankerous, I will say, a little ornery. But you know, my first
for those who don't know, Greg Smith is the executive director for the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association and lives in Illinois, like 200 yards from the state border. But I digress. Go ahead.
And is a summer bird and has a home in Arizona, which he spends most of his time in. Which he always like, tough guy that, he's, Midwest, but he's not handling those winters. He's handling those winters down in Arizona. So yeah, we get on him real good about that. But yeah, my first meeting, he in Indianapolis in July, they sat me next to him, and that was whoever made that decision, man, it's regretful, because essentially it's almost, he was like my mentor. And they always have little candies on the desks, and Hershey's Kisses, and he apparently loves some Hershey's Kisses, because I felt like every 5 minutes that he was just taking a Hershey's Kiss. I'm like, man, easy, they're not gonna be anything for anybody else. And I got some pretty good grief out of the situation. And then so basically what I did is I pushed it away from him so he'd stop eating them all, and he wasn't very happy about that with me. But when he would answer a question, I would give him a Hershey's Kiss after that. And then we had a little fun with that, little joke. To continue, we went to Dr. Blackburn's house for a brief stay and to have some fellowship and eat some good food and whatnot. And I happened to walk by. Actually, Jamie Sheets was with the board with me at the time from Utah, and we walked by this game, and apparently the game's called Shut the Box. And I have never heard of this game, Shut the Box. So I went ahead and asked the question, hey, what's this game? What's it all about? So I guess it's big in the Midwest. At least it's not in Vegas, I can assure you of that. And we learned how to play the game. Well, we decided, hey, let's expand it, and we're going to make teams and play. And of course, I got stuck with Smitty. And I can tell you, I think we lost every single time we played against somebody else. He doesn't know how to roll the dice appropriately, or we switched roles and then he can't count properly. I'm just telling you, it's just tough being with Greg Smith. We also then went to, I think it was Nellie's home, and they had a ping pong table. And Greg didn't do so well in ping pong. He got beat pretty good, and but it's always like it was the paddle's fault. It wasn't the ping pong ball wasn't right. So Smitty, very competitive, but not pretty much a sore loser. We got to help the old generation out a little bit. And
absolutely, that's fascinating.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
You said your first conference was Nashville, and so I want you to share your observations about, I say the most recent conference, but obviously it was 10 months ago in Nashville. By the time this airs, it'll probably almost be a year from then. So was this your third conference in Nashville or your second?
This will be my second. The last time it was in Nashville was the only one that I've missed since going to these.
Right.
I had this idea of maybe becoming a principal in the future. And I stayed back because it was an opportunity to interview one time for 3 different high school principal jobs. And I just felt like I couldn't let that opportunity go.
Understandable. So having cleared that Nashville up, what are your thoughts about the most well-attended conference ever, that our last conference in Nashville? Just share your thoughts about the conference.
Well, I'm gonna tell you first and foremost, being on that board of directors, I didn't leave the hotel. That is a beautiful Gaylord property, and you're so busy that there's no opportunity to go sightseeing and doing all those fun things with Nashville. You stay on campus in that hotel 97% of the time. So great conference, tons of people, most well attended. I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing that of growth that I think the NIAAA is doing a great job with is the DEIB committee. And I think that we've got some great speakers that have come in and spoken about DEIB and just the expansion of the DEIB. I think we're really the stress is the be and belonging. And I think we're doing a great job in growing that piece.
Excellent. Talk for a minute to our audience about the job of being an executive director. I know you're fairly new at it. Maybe talk about attending the NEDC summits in the summer and share some of your thoughts on that.
So a big part of me being who I am is learning from people that have gone through this process and are well established. And I'm not saying this, Mark, because you and I are on this call together, but you've been in the Utah executive director for how many years now, if I can ask?
It'll be 25 by the time I leave next June.
Joni Paps, same thing in Arizona. Right. It's in 20 years. Section 7 is blessed to have you, to have Joni, to have Jean Ashton. I know she's not the executive director in California. Bill Villa in Hawaii, I know he's new to being an executive director, but we have a pretty good group of Section 7 that we communicate. And it's just great being able to go to your conference, to go to Arizona's conference, had the opportunity to go to Hawaii's conference over the summer, and just to see the different things that you do, how you get people involved. And really my focus right now is how can we expand the box? Because we've got some really good ideas. We have some really good people in Nevada, but how do we expand it so that we can, maybe offer a few more workshops? You guys do a great job of having the hotel and the little conference center right next door. In Arizona, it's an all-inclusive. The hotel and the conference are all together. It's funny. Right. I'll tell you, in Utah, you and your team assemble the convention area and disassemble the convention area. No questions asked. There's no union like there is in Colorado, apparently.
Yes.
In Arizona, they gave Joni a walkie-talkie, and she was contacting the staff through the walkie-talkie. Hey, we need more paper towels in the men's room. Hey, we need some tech support in room A. They wouldn't ever let me do that in Nevada. So try to kind of figure out how we can expand in doing all the things that you do through awards, where you really truly have a sit-down dinner, where we will have more so a luncheon. So just, again, it's been so beneficial to open my eyes and see all the different things that can be done. I truly encourage everyone and anyone to be able to go to other conferences that are in this position to go and learn. So that's, I think, been a big piece in my growth. And hey, as we rotate from Vegas to Reno every year. We're heading up to Reno, and that's going to be another experience because the setup's different. We stay at the Lawler Event Center.
Right.
We were in the Thomas and Mack Center, and it's different setups. And so, yeah, we've got to maybe change some ideas a little bit and expand what we're doing right now.
There you go. I've been to multiple Nevada conferences at the Lawler Center and multiple at the Thomas and Mack.
Yeah, and we have everything always connected to state basketball, which is fantastic. But sometimes our athletic directors hear the ball bouncing, and they'd rather see the game on the court than hang out in the conference. So, again, we have to change some mentalities a little bit, or we just need to get more dynamic speakers so they don't want to leave. Right. But and that's nice too, right? To get away, always to be sitting is kind of a challenge as well, because I think we're all athletes. We like to move and get up and watch games.
Exactly. X, what's the favorite part of your job?
I'm going to tell you the favorite part of my job is when we get new athletic directors and new athletic administrators is to be able to talk to them and help them grow. You know, I miss the kids. I miss the kids when I was at the high school level, just being able to see them grow and support them and the things that they're trying to get accomplished. So I'm happy at least that I can help support the adults, because sometimes adults are challenging to deal with, as you well know. But the new ones don't know what they don't know. So you can coach them up and help them, guide them, and understand what they need to know. And I try to be very open with my customer service. So if they have a call that they need to come in and ask me questions, please do. The ones that don't call, the ones that we worry about.
Excellent. Let's finish with a couple of questions. The first being, I want X's 2 suggestions for a brand new AD, and they need to follow these 2 suggestions in order to be a success. What would your 2 suggestions be?
So I think communication is the key in everything that you do. If you're a brand new athletic director, you've got coaches that are probably veterans that have been there around a long time. Definitely talk to them. I know you talked about baseball earlier. I don't know where you got baseball from me, but I can tell you that baseball coaches, for whatever reason, seem to be the most creative. But all your coaches can be creative, right, and have great ideas, but maybe they haven't had no one to listen to the ideas for them to maybe implement, and might make the athletic director's job a little bit easier, right? So you definitely want to build those relationships. Go to practices, go to games, get involved, make sure the kids see you. The kids know if you care, right? And if you don't show up, they think, oh man, he don't care about us. He's just trying to tell us what to do all the time. So I think communication for me is a big part. And if you're a new athletic director, build a relationship with your school banker. I hate to say it, but sometimes you've got adults that don't even know how to keep their own finances in check, let alone you're going to allow them to, keep the finances going for a team. So your banker can be a huge asset to make sure everybody's handling their monies appropriately. I wish I would have done a better job when I was an AD to have a great conversation with our counselor to make sure that all of our kids were appropriate when it came to clearing a house, things of that nature. Got to get in good with the principal secretary, because the principal, is the head, right? If you watch that, my Big Fat Greek Wedding, right? Well, the principal secretary is the neck and can move the head however it needs to be moved. So you got to make sure that principal secretary is in your pocket. And then, having good conversations with your trainer. Get your trainer involved in your parent meeting so that if a kid does get hurt, that the parent knows that, hey, we've got a trainer and here's the services that they have. I really feel like you should have your banker, during your preseason coaches meeting involved so that they can teach all the banking aspects. And you should have your counselor at those parent meetings to let the parents know, like, hey, here's a counselor. Here's what you need to do to make sure if you want to get your kid going to, to get a scholarship, here's the courses they need to take, right? And your trainer as well at your parent meeting and at your coaching meeting so that the coaches know what we're going to do with our trainers. We're blessed in Clark County that we have a trainer at all of our high schools. So that's a pretty neat piece right there. But yeah, building relationships key. Communication is key.
Great points. Let's finish up with this question. X, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask?
Well, I'm surprised you didn't ask me, especially just went to a Raiders game. How come, talk to me about the expansion of sports in Las Vegas, Nevada. I mean, we just added the Golden Knights, who are the Stanley Cup champions.
Stanley Cup champions, yes.
WNBA, we got the Las Vegas Aces.
Finals.
They're up 2-0. They could be back-to-back WNBA champions. And, of course, the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are struggling a little bit, not quite what they need to be. I'm sure you just went to a Packers-Raiders game. I'm going to assume, and I wasn't at the game, but I'm going to assume that crowd was heavily Packer laden with a bunch of cheese heads everywhere. Am I right?
They did have a bunch of cheese heads there. I was amazed at how many Green Bay fans were there, but I will tell you this interesting story. My kids gave me the tickets for my 70th birthday, and we stayed right there at the Residence Inn, actually right next to the courtyard where we have our Section 7 meeting. Yeah. So we just walked up Dean Martin Drive there like 10 minutes. But a friend of mine who was in Vegas on work and was going to take his boss to the game, his boss didn't want to go. So he texts me after the game starts. I'm sitting up in 300 and whatever section in the end zone. He says, you want my tickets? I said, oh, absolutely. Where are they? He said, oh, they're on the 50-yard line on row 18. And so we go down there, and I am sitting right on the 50. And you go to, I guess you've been there, that you go down and like they had prime rib and crab legs and shrimp. And all sorts of candy and chips and nachos, everything you wanted to eat. It was unbelievable. People with a lot more money than what I have, I can tell you that.
Yeah, so the Golden Knights, if you ever had the opportunity, I suggest going to a Golden Knights game. I mean, I know the tickets probably a little bit more expensive as they were in the past, but they just put on a show. And I think initially NHL, some other organizations weren't very happy because it was all about the show, but it's not just about the hockey, it's about the game. It's about all the things that go on beyond it. I mean, the Golden Knights do a tremendous job with that. The Aces are growing and they're doing a good job as far as instilling themselves in the community and trying to expand, more female participation. And it's just not about just basketball. They just want to see about more female participation across the board. And I'm going to tell you, when the Raiders came to Vegas, we had kind of heard that they had a bad rap as far as not really working well with the schools and whatnot. I'm going to tell you, I don't know who made that statement, but they're wrong. The Raiders do a phenomenal job in trying to incorporate everything they can with the schools, whether it's middle school, whether it's high school. They're doing a big push for flag football. Our state championships now are being held at Allegiant. Even 8-man, they cut down the sidelines so that they can play the 8-man football game this past year. And the Raiders have been a tremendous partner, and couldn't be more thankful for them as well as the other two organizations.
That's fascinating. I need to ask you a follow-up question, even though I said it was the last question. I had no idea. Have you seen? Apparently, that grass field goes out into the sunlight, and then
Correct.
they put it back. I'm watching the game, and I said to Deb, "That's not turf. That's grass." And then I had no idea that the way they explained it on the internet was it's on a tray, and they just put the tray out in the sun and they just put it back in there.
Yep. So they have 3 fields. They have one that UNLV plays on. So it has the UNLV logo, UNLV end zones and everything like that. It's turf. They have the Raiders turf. So for practice purposes, or like our state football games are played on the turf field. But when it comes to a Raider game, like you said, that track goes out, it's in the sunshine. And then when it's time to, game time, they bring it back in and they spray it down and get everything ready for the game. So yeah, it's pretty neat. I haven't seen it in action. I have seen the field on the other side, and it just sitting in the sun, just in this vast open area.
Well, that is fascinating. On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Xavier Antheume, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Executive Director of the Nevada Athletic Directors Association. Thanks so much for being on the show, X.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.